Right now, people are quietly leaving California, and the reason this matters isn't just the movement itself, it's the scale and the pattern behind it, because over the past few years, the state has seen a consistent net outflow of residents, with estimates showing that between 2020 and 2023, California lost more than 500,000 people on net to other states. And what makes this more interesting is that it's not just one group. It includes working professionals, families, and high earners, the same people who once moved there for opportunity. And when that kind of shift happens in a place with an economy worth over $3.5 trillion, it raises a much bigger question. What exactly is changing beneath the surface? Because from the outside, California still looks incredibly strong. If it were its own country, it would rank among the largest economies in the world. It leads in technology, dominates entertainment, and continues to attract global investment, something leaders like Gavin Newsom often highlight when defending the state's economic performance. While at the national level, figures like Donald Trump have repeatedly pointed to high taxes and business costs as reasons companies and residents might leave. But beyond the political debate, the real shift is happening in everyday life, because the cost of living in California has reached levels that are hard to ignore. The median home price in many parts of the state has crossed $700,000. And in cities like San Francisco, it has often been well above $1 million, while rents in major urban areas can easily exceed $2,500 to $3,500 per month, even for relatively standard apartments. And while average salaries are higher than the national average, they are heavily skewed by top earners, which means a large portion of residents are spending a significant share of their income just to maintain their position. At the same time, taxes add another layer to the equation, with California having one of the highest top state income tax rates in the United States, reaching up to 13.3% for the highest earners. And while that structure generates significant revenue, it also influences how mobile high-income individuals think about long-term decisions, especially when combined with the rising cost of housing and everyday expenses. But the real turning point, the factor that truly accelerated everything, was flexibility, because remote and hybrid work didn't just slightly change how jobs function, they quietly rewrote the rules, especially in high-paying industries like technology, finance, and media, where a growing share of roles can now be done from almost anywhere. And even if it's not every job, it doesn't need to be, because once enough people gain that freedom, even a minority, it starts influencing everyone else. And by most estimates, a significant portion of these roles can now be performed remotely at least part of the time, which introduces something California had never really faced at this scale before. A real choice, not a forced exit. Not a crisis-driven move, but a voluntary decision based on lifestyle, cost, and long-term priorities. And that one shift, that single change in control, is where everything starts to move. And that distinction is what makes this moment different, because when people are forced to leave, it's loud, it creates headlines, it feels like a breaking story. But when people choose to leave, it's quiet, steady, and almost invisible at first. And that's exactly what makes it more powerful over time, because it builds underneath the surface, decision by decision, family by family, until suddenly the data starts catching up with what people have already been feeling, that staying is no longer the only path forward. And once that realization spreads, something deeper begins to change, not just behavior, but belief. Because for years, California wasn't just a place, it was the place, the default destination for ambition, where if you wanted to win, you had to be there. But now that idea is starting to stretch, not disappear, but expand. And that subtle shift is everything. As more people begin exploring that option, the idea itself gains momentum. Conversations shift. What once felt risky starts to feel logical, and moving out of California is no longer seen as stepping away from opportunity, but in many cases, as a smarter way to access it, keeping the same income while improving quality of life. And when that narrative takes hold, it feeds on itself. More people consider it, more people act on it, and the cycle continues. At the same time, small changes begin showing up in real ways. Housing pressure in certain areas starts to ease slightly, while other regions begin to heat up. Smaller cities and neighboring states see new demand as incoming residents bring both income and experience with them, and over time, this creates a quiet redistribution, not just of people, but of economic energy, where growth starts to shift, where businesses expand, and where new opportunities begin forming. And companies are watching all of this very closely, because businesses don't just react to the present, they position for the future. And if talent becomes more distributed, companies naturally follow, expanding into multiple regions, building remote-first teams, and reducing reliance on a single expensive hub. not abandoning California, but no longer depending on it in the same way. And that shift, while subtle at first, becomes massive when it happens across entire industries. And this is where the deeper impact starts to unfold, because California's greatest strength has always been its concentration. The dense, powerful network of talent, capital, universities and innovation all feeding into each other, creating a system that's been incredibly difficult to replicate, but even a slight loosening of that concentration begins to change the equation. Not breaking it, but reshaping it, turning one dominant center into a more distributed network of strong regions. Because even small changes at the top of a system create ripple effects far beyond what's immediately visible. Fewer people in one place means fewer chance encounters, fewer spontaneous collaborations, fewer reasons for every new startup to choose the exact same location, and over time that begins to influence where the next wave of growth happens. At the same time, it's important to stay grounded. California is still one of the most powerful and influential economies in the world. It continues to attract talent, innovation, and investment. And for many people, it remains one of the best places to build a career. So this isn't a story about collapse. It's about transition, about a system adjusting to new conditions rather than failing under pressure. And that's what makes this moment so important, because what started as a change in how people work has now become a shift in how people think, where they want to live, what they value, and how they define opportunity. And this isn't just happening in one place. Similar patterns are emerging across major cities in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, where rising costs and increasing flexibility are pushing people to rethink long-held assumptions. So what we're seeing right now may not feel dramatic in the moment, but it is meaningful because it signals a change in direction, a slow but steady redistribution of people, opportunity, and economic activity. And if that trend continues, it won't just reshape California. It could redefine how major economic centers function in the years ahead, not by replacing them, but by transforming them into something more flexible, more distributed, and more aligned with how people actually want to live today. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating content like this.